Welcome back to the Dental Hygiene Basics podcast. My name is Dana. I am your host. Very excited to have our special guest, Felicity, on with us today. Felicity from Tooth Fairy RDH. If you're not following her already, I'm sure you will be after this episode, but we're going to dive right in. I just like to get to the meat and bones of the conversation. I want to know what's your RDH origin story. So how did you get to this point?
Yeah, so thank you for having me, first of all. So I've been in dentistry for a little bit. I went to a vocational high school, so I started off in a dental assisting program. So for those who don't know, a vocational high school is basically half of the year you are in like studying a trade, and then the other half you're doing the academic portion. So my school had dental assisting, and the reason that I picked it mainly was because I wanted to make money. I knew that healthcare was a way for me to make money right out of school. So I started off there. I worked my senior year in an oral surgery office. And then from there, I applied my senior year to dental hygiene school. Now, my main goal has always been I wanted to be a dentist, specifically like an orthodontist. And I didn't want to go to school for pre-dental because I knew by graduating with pre-dental, I would have to go straight to dental school and I wouldn't be able to make money. And, you hear scary stories of people not getting accepted right away and all of these things. So I actually found a school in Boston that had a pre-dental / dental hygiene program all in one. So the first 2 years, you basically took all your prereqs for a dental hygiene school, and then you go straight into the dental hygiene program. So you had to keep like a minimum GPA in order to stay in the program. And yeah, that's how it all started.
Wow, that's crazy. And I'm just thinking, I was like, wait, I think I've heard a little bit of your story. You were on Julio's podcast too,
I
right?
was, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was like, I listened to you, and I think that's why I was like, oh, I want her on my podcast too. So very excited. Yeah,
Aw.
and we love Julio. He's done some collabs
Yes.
with us here at Dental Hygiene Basics. So definitely hop over. You can hear some of her story there as well. Well, I think that's so cool. I'm hoping that a high schooler somewhere is listening to this, and they're like, wow, look at that path. The vocational program is incredible because you get your feet wet. You're going to be going to school anyway, so you might as well be going to school to learn something to kind of further you. And like you said, it never hurts to have a plan in place to make money, right? I
Definitely.
think that that's not a bad, that's what we're all going to be doing one day, right? We have to get out there and make some money. And that's the beauty of a career in dentistry. I think of it as it could be a stepping stone if you choose, or you could stay in one individual category and you can expand within that category, right? Whatever you end up deciding. So you go through the dental hygiene program, make it out, you get to the point where you could have gone on, but you
Yeah.
didn't. So
No.
what changed your mind?
So I started working. I took my boards and I had not yet taken the DAT, which is the test to get into dental school. And my school also, it was a very new program, the pre-dental dental hygiene. And I feel as though they could have done a better job at preparing us to apply to school right away. Whereas it was more of, you have all of the classes you need now, kind of figure it out. And maybe that was on me too, because I wasn't proactive about it so much because I was just overwhelmed with going to college that it was hard for me to think about the next level, Like
Yeah.
I'm so in this and I'm so focused on this, and chemistry and all of my prereqs really stressed me out. Dental hygiene school for me was a little bit better because I already had that dental background, so I actually enjoyed the hands-on experience, being able to apply everything that I learned in clinic, like connect my didactic with my clinic portion. So for me, that's my learning style was a lot easier, whereas my prereqs were a lot harder. So I didn't feel very prepared coming out of dental hygiene school to go straight to dental school. That was a big thing for me. I also got like some seasoned chemistry. So I was like, even if I do apply, who knows if I would get in. So that was always in the back of my mind. But also taking the DAT, a lot of my friends took it before they took like the national board exam and stuff, and I just wasn't there. I didn't know how they did it. I looked at them like they were superheroes because it was just impossible for me to even think about. So fast forward, I graduate, I start working dental hygiene, and within the first week, I'm like burnt out. I'm like, I don't know if this is for me. Like I was just physically, mentally exhausted. And, when you first graduate, people look at you like you're fresh meat and like you can work all of these days and you can cover for me. Now I can take a vacation now that we have somebody new at the office. So I just got really, really burnt out. And that made me decide I'm like, I don't know if I want to commit 4 more years to this field, like schooling wise and money wise.
Yeah, yeah. And really good that you had that because, and I always think, life gives you the knocks, the nudges, puts you on the direction that you're supposed to be. And I think honestly, the thing that impresses me the most is that you had that intuition. Like, I just don't think, whether you realize it was intuition at the time, right? Like, I can't take the
Yeah.
DAT right now. And I've taken the DAT and I can't imagine taking the DAT and your national boards.
No.
Honestly, that makes me sweat so bad, like, just even
Yeah.
thinking about it. The dad and me were not friends. So, yeah, I totally get it, and but the thing is, I could see a lot of students in your situation being like, "Well, I feel like I already committed. Let me just keep going." And then, like you said, you go down this path fully into dental school and you come out with all this debt. And then you may realize, I don't know if that's really where I should have spent my time or my energy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's almost like you're digging like a deeper hole the more schooling that you do. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it was almost like by working, like dental hygiene kind of allowed me to escape from that because once you commit to dental school and you go 500,000 in debt, it's like then from there you might want to buy a practice. There's more debt. And then you have to work to make up for it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the job is there waiting for you, right?
Yes.
And you may not want that job anymore. I know. And there's just so many thoughts I have about this, but I even think too, you got that call, you listened to it, you did what was right for you in the moment where, other people may have chiped or, have thoughts on what you're doing and oh, you should go for it, but you have to really listen to that gut instinct and what you said is kind of I think important to talk about because you were having thoughts of burnout and you were thinking maybe even this career is not for me as soon as you graduated. And I think that that's a very honest and needed conversation to have. I think there's kind of two camps of people these days. It's like you're a diehard hygienist and you kind of look down on anyone who wants to get out of the op, right? Or you're like, you got to get out of the op. You shouldn't be in there. It's like, it's
Yeah,
holding you back. Okay, I don't really think there's only two camps. I think there's obviously middle
I know.
people.
But
But
there are very strong sides on.
as with everything, like there's a polarization, right? It's like 50%,
Yes.
50%. And I always ride the middle line because when I graduated, I was like gung ho. I loved it, but I got burnout. I got injured. I mean, it was like within a couple of years, and I had some really bad work environments that made me think this isn't for me. And to the point where I almost feel like I maybe have like mild PTSD when it comes to
Yeah.
clinical. Like the thought of going back to real, like true, like general pop clinical, really kind of stresses me out. But does that mean I turned away from my career? No. I realized through that my alignment was more with education. That lights me up. I mean, yes, I get stressed, but it doesn't give me the negative stress like I had whenever I was in that situation. So I
Yeah.
would love to hear from your perspective because obviously you didn't step away from being a dental hygienist. Now
Yeah.
you're practicing again, but you also own your own business. So what did that look like for you?
Yeah, so within the first week, I got burnt out, right? So I think that if I hadn't started Tooth Fairy RDH, I might have went to dental school just for the change, just because I wanted to get out of it. I'm like, I miss school. Like I don't want this life for me. But basically I attended a conference within a couple months of working and it was just a regular business conference. Like had nothing to do with dentistry. It was just a bunch of entrepreneurs. And while I was in school, I actually had a candle business. I made and sold candles online. So I was already like in that headspace of I can make money online if I wanted to. But I was like, how can I connect it to like the 4 years I just spent on school? I don't want to throw away my education. Not that I would, but I
Yeah.
want to find a way to connect it. And I don't feel connected to candles or any of that anymore. So I went to this business conference and it just inspired me. So I was just brainstorming the entire trip. And by the time I got to the airport, I was like, I really enjoyed making these study guides. How can I get them out to people and make money from them and help dental hygiene students because I know that it's stressful. So that's when I came out with my clinical reference cards and I don't know, it was just an idea. I bought all of the supplies in the airport, like, got them sent to my house. It was a lot of trial and error, but within 5 months of working dental hygiene, I launched it. I didn't think twice about it. It wasn't fully ready, but I knew that I had to do something. So once I started seeing, sales coming in, it created this freedom in my mind and, like, it opened a door, for opportunity to make money outside of clinic.
I love that. And that's what I always encourage people to do. I'm like, what are your interests? And everyone has interests, whether you realize it or not. Right. And then I think
Mhm.
now look at your life and look at your background and what education you have, what skills you have, what jobs you've had in the past, and how do you connect them all to move forward into the next thing? And that's exactly what you did. You just,
Yeah.
sometimes we just need the inspiration to hit, right? Because I felt the same when I was working clinical and then I worked in education and I knew I was way happier in education, but I had this kind of call to be an entrepreneur too. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. I don't know. I just always thought I'd own my own business, but it was kind of the same. You're like, what am I going to sell? How am I going to make money? Right? Like, how do I take this and apply it to that? And then you just start brainstorming, you give space for opportunity, and next thing you know, you have an idea and it's almost, I don't know, for you, did it feel like you had to do it? That's how mine felt. It was like, okay,
Yeah,
like there's no
no
other
choice.
choice. Yeah, yeah, you have to do it. I know. And I love that. That's what's so fun about just feeling free to explore and try new things and not being afraid. But I really think again, trusting that intuition. Had you not listened to that, you probably would have been working clinically for a lot longer and probably been not as happy, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people, find burnout is that they don't have life or purpose outside of the clinic. Dental hygiene will always be my purpose, but it's connected to something bigger
Yes.
and not defined by 9 to 5 clinic.
Yes, yes. And I know some people who work 9 to 5 clinic and that is their purpose. It's like
Exactly.
that lights them up, but that doesn't have to be everyone's story.
Yes.
And I just love to give space for that here on the podcast because my story looks different than yours, even though we have a lot of similarities. And the key thing is that we just kept leaning into what felt right. And
Yeah.
now look, right? It's like,
Yeah.
wow, cool. Like I'm doing all these awesome things.
Be
Yeah.
willing to
So
make the change.
yes, yeah, exactly. And so when you were coming up with the concept for Tooth Fairy RDH, you create these amazing clinical cards, you're selling them. I just want to know a little bit about the business journey. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the business journey because, you said you bought all the stuff in the airport, you start putting it together. There's a lot of trial and error. At what point did you end up stepping away from clinical to lean into that?
So I think that I just slowly started to cut out days. And, once I saw the need for it and how many people were buying it and that I was making money from it, the more money I made, basically, the more I could step away from it. So I slowly just started cutting out days. My boss was fully on board with the business and very supportive of it. So I cut down a day and then like a few months later I cut down another day and basically I got down to working like 2 days clinical hygiene before I went all in for an entire year.
Yeah, I'm actually dropping my last clinical day here in a few
Yay.
months. Yeah,
That's
and it's
awesome.
part of it was because I work with public health and our grant is running out, so like we're not sure if the program will be back next year, but I'm kind of taking it as a sign like okay, like it's time, but it feels strange to me and that's what I'm curious about when you weren't doing that because I know you've started picking up some clinical days again, but when you weren't doing that, did you miss it? Did you feel like for me I'm worried that I'm going to be like feel like my arm is gone or something.
Yeah, so I definitely miss aspects of it. So I started temping like last month and there's pros and cons to it. At first, I really was like so excited to be back. I want that to be a part of my content and like I want to stay in touch with that part of me, but also a part that scares me is offices trying to, get me to commit to working more than I want to or like committing ahead of time, which I am not here for right now. I think that I have a business and I need to be open and flexible and free to do this when I need to do this, not commit to an office, working every Thursday. So that's been a little bit of a battle for me because even with temping, people try to snatch you up. They see like
Yes.
you're a good worker, you have a good work ethic, and they want you, which I don't blame them for it because it's hard to find, good people to work with, but that's just not where I'm at right now.
No, I mean, you're preaching to the choir. That honestly was the problem with me with clinical was I felt trapped by the schedule. I didn't like that, I had to ask off 6 months in advance and make sure I had cover and that if I just needed a day, a mental health day, right? Like I didn't really take it. Some people that does not bother them. They like the regimen of I know that I work Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. When I first started, I did like that. But it didn't take long until I realized I burn out for many reasons, but I think one of them was I was not working with who I was as a person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really
Mhm.
maximizing what feels right and true to me. And I'm the same. Like, that commitment thing freaks me out. Part of me is like, how did I get married?
I know, me too.
Man, my husband, he really locked me down. And that's really saying something
That's really funny.
yeah,
We're the
because
same type of person because I don't even have any tattoos for that reason because
oh, you know what? I think, but when you get the inspiration, I just got my first tattoo. I was 35. And you know what the funniest part is? It was inspired because I was sitting on the beach and I was drinking a beer and the beer was oh my gosh, what's it called? Kona. And on the side of the bottle it says one life, right? And I was thinking about how miserable I was at my job and I was like this is not for me. I don't know what's next, but I have to make way for opportunity and move on to the next thing. Like I just feel so trapped, right? And so I got the tattoo on my
oh,
on
that's
my foot.
beautiful though.
But it's
It's a
a
reminder.
symbol. Yeah, it was a symbol to me, and my husband got one too, and the other day someone asked, they're like, "What does your tattoo mean?" And my husband goes, "It means quit your shitty job."
It's true. I love that.
And I
I
was like,
absolutely love that.
yeah, you have to listen to yourself. I mean, I know already in this conversation, I've talked about intuition like 10 times. It's like, if you're not following what your body is telling you, you are
Yes.
never going to be happy, right? And you're not going to grow either. I think honestly, you can go reverse. You go the other
Yeah.
way, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I told you that I get off on tangents on this podcast, and we
I
really
love it.
it's gone
I
on a
love
windy road. Yeah,
it.
I love it too. Well, I do want to ask some kind of questions about school. You said you went to school in Boston. Are you comfortable sharing where you went to school?
Yeah, I went to Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Science, MCP.
Okay, perfect. And then I want to know a little bit about this application process because you said it was kind of connected with the dental school, but yeah, tell me a little bit more because I'm kind of curious how that works out.
Yeah, so honestly, the acceptance rate for this school is really high, but the graduation rate is not. So my program specifically started off with like 50 people, maybe even 70, and we graduated with a class of 19. So there were a lot of people, that they fail out or they transfer schools because it's a really difficult school. I don't have anything to compare it to, obviously, but like my chemistry classes, I feel like were meant to confuse me. And maybe that's like the exam questions specifically were like, if the answer was 0.025, it was like 0.0025, like anything that you would put into the calculator and get incorrectly, like it was there. So it made you feel like you were doing something like,
Oh my gosh. But then
yeah.
you get to the national board and that's the kind of stuff they pull on you too, right?
Yeah,
So
so it's like you have to learn it. But yeah, so this school, the acceptance rate was pretty high and you had to maintain a minimum GPA to stay in the dental hygiene program. So once you get accepted to the school, basically you are accepted into the program and you just have to keep up your GPA. So you take all the classes that you would take regularly to get into a dental hygiene school, except maybe a little bit more advanced. So for instance, like for the people who were just in the dental hygiene program, they weren't taking organic chemistry or like the physics that I was taking. We were more with the pre-med pharmacy students taking organic chemistry and like the required physics to get into dental school. So that's where like we kind of parted. We kind of were mixed in with the dental hygiene students in the beginning, taking classes like nutrition and things like that. For the most part, it was like the pre-dental students and then like just the dental hygiene students. We even wore different color scrubs for some reason. But and then when it came to the dental hygiene program, we were taking all the same classes just at different points because we were taking maybe a couple more classes than them, so we started some things earlier. And yeah, that's kind of how it was set up. And then obviously when you're in the dental hygiene program, you have to maintain like a 3.0 GPA or something like that in all of your classes. Yeah. Any other
Yeah.
questions about that?
Well, I was just thinking from start to finish, like, was it about 4 years with your prereqs and your dental hygiene schooling?
So it was a bachelor's degree and it was 3.5 years because we took classes throughout the summers.
Okay. I mean, that's
Yeah,
kinda nice though. You just roll through, you're on the
exactly.
path, you know what's supposed to happen, right?
Yeah.
Well, I say that, but then you said they maybe to go further into the dental, they really didn't give you the guidance that you felt like you needed at the time.
Yeah. Just like applying the application process and things like that, I feel like could have been maybe a little bit better.
And truthfully, part of that is why I started Dental Hygiene Basics because you're trying to just figure your way out through all of these. What prereqs do I need? When do I need to apply? Like all those questions, and then what's happening on the back end? What are the admissions committees thinking? I wanted to just kind of not expose it, but make students aware because I know
Yeah.
there's so many people out there who have those. I had those questions, right? You're like,
Yeah.
the first time I applied, I didn't get into dental hygiene school because I had not completed a science credit. And it sounds so simple. You're like, yeah, of
Yeah.
course, you hadn't completed it. But I applied anyways. I spent the money to apply and I didn't get in. And it was mainly because of that. And I just didn't know any better. You think, oh, maybe they'll make an exception. No, they don't make exceptions. It doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah.
However many people are applying, they don't make exceptions. Yeah, and pretty crazy that you had such a big class size and then it went down to a small one. But I guess they
I
expect, like
know.
you said, over that time frame for people to drop out. So I guess the other question I have, if you're comfortable answering, how did you
Mhm.
pay for dental hygiene school?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't come from money at all, and this was like a big thing for me. So my grandmother is big on education, and she always pushed me to like go to the best school, and that's always been the dream is to go to college. She wanted me to be a dentist. Um, so we knew that we were going to have to take out loans for it. With this school specifically, it was very expensive. It's in the city. I dormed my first 2 years. Basically, I got a financial advisor my senior year and we worked together to make it work. We got out, I think my first year, we got out a private loan and obviously like the government grants and loans and things like that, which I was very confused by. I had no idea. Even with a financial advisor, I didn't know that world. So I graduated with way more loans than I expected to. I
Mm,
think I graduated with about $90,000 in loans, which I wouldn't change it because, I got the education that I wanted and I got the pre-dental dental hygiene and I always had that there in case I wanted to pursue dental school, but I might have thought a little bit more about it if I had
Well,
known. Yeah, because the private loans, like that's what I thought I was taking out. Like
mhm,
basically I thought I was going to graduate maybe with $50,000 in loans, which it's a big difference, $40,000 difference. I didn't understand like the government was just giving me loans rather than it was money coming
mm.
towards I thought I was going to get more financial aid.
I see what you're saying. I
Yeah.
mean, it's such a confusing world. And like you said, you don't go to high school and they're like, and here's loan terminology, right?
Mhm.
Like, make sure you understand this before you sign on the dotted line. Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody tells you that. Federal, they are still a loan that you have to pay back. They come from the government. But a lot of people think, oh, I apply for FAFSA so that I get financial aid. And in your head, you might think financial aid means free money,
Yeah.
but it may just be, oh, you qualify for federal loans, not you qualify for a federal grant or a Pell Grant, something where they're giving you money for free. And it's so confusing. And then you graduate and you have maybe federal loans, private loans, and you're like, which ones do I prioritize? You may not even know the interest rates. And
Yeah.
there's different strategies too for how to manage them. So it's a tricky world, but I mean, I agree. You invested in yourself. It's obviously paid off. You've done amazing things with it. But what does life looks like with those loans on the other end? I mean, do you feel that it's reasonable? Like you've been able to pay them off pretty well each month, not struggling with it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the way that especially the government loans are set up, they help you, like even if you don't have it. But basically, after graduating and realizing that I wasn't going to go to dental school and I had to start paying these, I went to the bank, I refinanced things so that they're all in one. So it's definitely manageable now. And my interest rate is not as high as it might have been when I was applying for these loans. So yeah, it's definitely manageable. And I don't think that it's a burden. I honestly look at it and I'm like, it's there, whatever.
Yeah.
It'll be paid
Yeah.
off. it's not even something that I really think about.
Yeah, that's great. That's amazing. Yeah, that's why I like people to hear the different stories, different perspectives on the financials, because everyone has a different thought process when it comes to finances on how they want to do it. But loans are there for a reason, right?
Yeah.
You just have to make sure that you have a plan in place for how you're going to tackle them after, right? And that's the
Yeah.
main thing.
And
So,
especially getting them for something like dental hygiene. Like, I don't think a dental hygienist should ever have to worry about paying it. Like, I think obviously there's different personalities, and some people get really stressed out by loans, but I think that people should think of it more as a tool. Like, you can get stressed out about it, but don't get overly stressed out about it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's
yeah.
there for a reason, and most people do it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's really good to hear because I'm in the latter where like debt freaks me out, you know? So like
Mhm.
when my husband I got married, we paid it off really, really quick. But what you said spoke to me. You're like, don't like go too far in that thought process, like where
Yeah.
you make it run your life. Cause that was me for a couple of years. I was like, I felt like I couldn't even breathe until we paid it off. And realistically, now when I look back, like kind of wish we would have took the foot off the pedal just a little bit,
Yeah.
and just enjoyed life a little bit more.
Yes.
Like I said, we paid it off in like 28 months. What if we had done it in 4 or 5 years instead? Like my quality of life would have been so much better. So I
Yeah.
think you have to ask yourself, that comes back with like that reflection. Like, am I really doing what's right for me in this moment? Like if it's feeling overwhelming, okay, come up with a plan for it. But
Yeah.
then if you find yourself tilting to the crazy side, you're like, all you do is work and you don't do anything fun. Okay, we need to shift to like, it's all about balance, right? At the end of the day, it's all
Yes.
about balance. Yeah.
Definitely.
Love that. Okay, so you're in dental hygiene school, struggling through it. You get inspired to create all of these amazing products for students. What advice would you give to the struggling student?
Hmm. I always like to give the advice of it's not that deep. Like, zoom out, go for a walk, look at nature and how beautiful it is. Like, be able to zoom out and see the world and how small your problems actually are, especially when you're in dental hygiene school. I think that's really what got me through, is like I took the time to do self-care. Even if I hadn't studied that much for that exam I have tomorrow, if I'm not in a mental space where I can sit down and study, I'm not going to. I'm not going to force myself into that. And obviously, you have to find that balance, because if you use that mindset and you're always like, "Oh, I never want to study," then you're going to fail a lot of exams. Like, you have to have discipline, but also know your limits. And when you're at the point of almost breaking, that you really need to take that time and focus on your mental health. And I think that comes with planning your time really well. For me, it was creating outlines, before I went to class. And I had these beautiful study guides so that when I sat down to study, I wasn't just going through the book and like going through my teacher's slides. I had all of the information right there that I had already reviewed like 3 times, because I made it. I read the book before I made it. I went to the class. I was already exposed to that information. So making studying easier for yourself, so that you're not just sitting. I'm not the type of person that can just sit down and study for hours and hours. Like, there was people that were going to the library and doing that. That's just not my personality. That's not, I don't have that discipline, I guess, So I needed to make it easier for myself, and that's how I did it. I think just, time managing and always knowing that there is time for yourself. You just have to schedule it.
Words of wisdom I needed back when I was in school. Yeah, because I know it's going to seem so silly. Some people are going to be listening and they're like, yeah, that's what you should do, right? Take a break.
Mhm.
You need the break, you take the break. And even in clinical, there's this kind of culture, oh, we don't get restroom breaks. Oh, I never even got to eat a snack. My stomach was growling in the patient's ear. I mean, I did all of those things when I worked clinically, right? And I had that mindset through dental hygiene school, and it didn't leave me when I left dental hygiene school. I did it in the clinic. Even when I started working as an entrepreneur, I set my own schedule. I still was like, "Oh, I'm so hungry. Why won't I just go eat something?" I don't know.
Yeah.
You can get really good at ignoring your cues. And I think it's so great that you don't do that. You celebrated that. And look, you have been super successful, right? So it goes to show that, yeah, you could push yourself to the breaking point. And sure, maybe you get an A on the test, but who's sitting better at the end of the day? I'm like, Felicity,
Yes.
not Dana.
No, it's just not sustainable long term. it's something that, like, if you can recognize, because I've been that same way too, we all go through seasons of, like, we're better some days. Like, some days I'm like, "I can't go to the bathroom either," like, when I'm in clinic. But and then I'm like, "If I run 15 minutes behind, what's gonna happen? Like, the patient's gonna get mad at me." I go home a little bit late, like, you think about the actual things that will happen. Just watched a video yesterday. Bianca made a reel. She's temping right now, and she said something very similar of, like, "Nobody's gonna die."
There is no such thing as a dental hygiene emergency. I mean, I
Yeah.
say there's no such. You can have a medical emergency in your chair. Okay, that's the time where a panic response is indicated,
Yeah.
right? Fight or flight can kick in. But you're right. Just because I'm like, oh, I may run 10 minutes late, or all of these like perceived or what might happen. Okay, or you just tell the patient, I'm really sorry, I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
Are they gonna like fault you for that? You're like, I had to go, man. Give me a break. Uh,
exactly.
yeah, it really is such good advice, needed advice. And I think our students need to hear that the most important thing is checking in with yourself and not going further than you need to. And I'll give a very good example of this. So I routinely go well beyond my limits, right? Have done that for years. I've hit burnout 3 or 4 times, right? Hit burnout in school, clinical, education, and entrepreneurship. What does that tell you? It's a me problem.
Yes, but honestly, like, it's a success thing too, because I do the same thing, and you know your potential, so you push yourself to that max, and not everybody does that. So that's
Okay.
really good. As
Thank
long
you
as
for
you're
making me feel better
Yeah,
about
as long
my
as
life.
you're recognizing it, and that it's not a long-term thing where you're gonna keep pushing yourself to burnout, because I'm still working on it too. I think
Yeah,
we're all only human. So I think that that's why you have your success as well, is because you have that.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when you think about if you push yourself beyond 100% all the time, you eventually accrue a deficit, right? To where you get to a point where your body will not let you do anymore. It will get to that point at some point. It may take 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. It just depends on the person. But now what I have to do is stop at like 60% so that I can have a normal day the rest of the you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if I go to 100 now, I just like wear myself out completely. And part of that's through I have endometriosis, I've had surgery, so I've had a lot going on there. I'm trying to recover, but it's just like the sooner you can learn those boundaries for yourself and commit to them as best as possible. Like you said, we're only human. We can only do so much on a daily basis. Like
Uh,
you're going to have days where things go off the rails, right? Or you have to stop at Chick-fil-A because you didn't have time to, make dinner,
yes.
whatever. Those things are going to happen. But that regular check in with yourself is just so important to make sure you don't push it. So I think that that's fantastic advice. All of your advice today, I think, has just been spot on. So needed.
Thank you.
And I think it's really great because uh, it is kind of different than what I would normally say, because you're a different person. But I love that. I think it's great, and I hope other people out there are listening and can see themselves in your shoes and will take good care of themselves. Well, I think that that is a great place to wrap up for the day. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the student?
No, I think that my last piece of advice is the biggest message that I try to give people. So
Yeah, it's a great
thank you
one.
for letting me share.
Of course. Well, I would love for you to just share with the students where they can find you, where they can find your resources because they're incredible and I highly recommend them.
Yeah, so I am most active on Instagram, at toothfairy.rdh. And from there, you'll find all of the things that I do. If you go through my highlights, I have a school community of over 700 students where I post all of my study materials. I post on TikTok, I post on YouTube. From there, you can find all of my resources.
Perfect. I love it. Yes. Well, thank you for everything you do for not only the dental hygiene community, but our dental hygiene students. I know that they appreciate it. And thank you for sharing your story with us today.
Of course, thank you for having me.